Let's go back to a time of the Wars of the Roses. Hi there folks, Matt Easton here, Schola Gladiatoria. So something a little bit different. In a week's time, I'm going to be with some of my good friends at Tewkesbury Medieval Festival, which is one of the reenactment events that I take part in each year. In fact, it's pretty much the biggest medieval reenactment event in the UK annually. And it's next weekend, and I'm going to be there with some of my friends you'll know, Zach Evans, Drakenifil, and Lloyd of Lindy Beige as well. So you'll know that we went there last year. We're going to be there again this year. And I was just checking out my regalia, my clothing for the event. And there's one item here you'll see I'm wearing, which is called a livery collar, which I thought, you know, actually probably a lot of people don't know what these are. So many of you will have seen things like Lord Mayor's shows and civic officials wearing chains of office like this. And in fact, that's basically what they are. It's the same thing. This is called a livery collar in a 15th century English context. And these are very interesting items that often get overlooked. And many times, there's a book here called The Livery Collar, incidentally. And many times when people are looking at armour, because we like weapons and armour, and they're looking at this particular styles of armour, and you know, you can see a male standard or collar there, and you're looking at helmets, all this kind of stuff, and they overlook the fact that often these people are wearing collars. Sometimes like this, sometimes versions which are actually more like a leather belt with decorations on, but they all serve a similar function. Now, they show your allegiance, your fealty, your loyalty to a specific person, or in this case, house or political faction, and also they show your status as well. So, livery collars were something that I think sometimes were procured by individuals to wear themselves, but very often they were things that were given. So if you served a particular lord or particular household, then, and in an English Wars of the Roses context, that meant a particular king, essentially, or dynasty, then you would be granted a livery collar. And it wasn't only just men, it was women as well. So this example I'm wearing, so shout out to Replica Regalia, I'll stick a link below. In America, absolutely fantastic service. They got this to me really quickly, and it is a replica of one shown in a Hans Memling painting, showing an English nobleman and his wife, and they're both wearing them, interestingly. Now, this shows that they were both part of the Yorkist faction. So in the Wars of the Roses, there were the Yorkists and the Lancastrians, more or less. It gets a bit more complicated than that, and sometimes people switch from one side to the other, and some people were sort of had a foot in both camps at different points. But fundamentally, we've got Yorkists and Lancastrians, and they each have two specific types of livery collar associated with them. Now, the one that I'm wearing here is very much a Yorkist one, because the principal emblems you want to look out for are roses, which were white roses. The red rose, incidentally, of Lancaster, really it's a Tudor rose, comes later. Well, the Tudor rose was a combination of the red and the white roses, but the concept of the red rose seems to sort of date to the very end, or probably even post-date the Wars of the Roses. But the white rose, very much an emblem used by Edward IV, for example, and Richard III. So the white rose of York was very much used throughout the Wars of the Roses, and combined with the what's so-called sun in splendour. Now, the rose and the sun are sometimes combined into one emblem, so sometimes you get something that's like half a sun, half a rose, and that is very much a Yorkist thing. So combining white roses, or roses at all, and suns, completely Yorkist. So by wearing this, I'm saying to everyone, I'm a frickin' Yorkist, come get me. So I'm absolutely showing loyalty and fealty to, in the case of the Battle of Tewkesbury, personally to the Duke of Gloucester, but on a more wider term to Edward IV. And as I say, sometimes women wore these as well. So women who worked in the royal household and served as a lady in waiting or anything else, they were sometimes given slightly smaller, slightly lighter versions of livery collars. And as I say, not all livery collars are the same. So not all Yorkist livery collars look exactly like this. Some of them are, as I say, a leather or perhaps even velvet covered belt with roses and suns applied to them, and particularly on armour. Actually, if we look at the ones, this is actually a Lancastrian one, but if we look at the ones on armour, often they look more like a belt, whereas the ones worn with clothes, and obviously I'm wearing my civilian clothes here, this is called a coat, this is a hat. I'm wearing civilian clothes, so this is a civilian collar as seen in Hans Memling's painting. I wouldn't be wearing this with my armour because it'd be jangly and get in the way and stuff, but a leather collar one would be more practical on armour, less noisy, and more likely to survive being hit by weapons, which this probably wouldn't. This incidentally is made of bronze or something close to it, brassy bronze, copper alloy, that's then gold plated, and the emblem at the bottom there, you get different emblems for different people. Sometimes there's a swan or portcullis for the Lancastrians, various other things. This is enamelled, and that is much like the famous swan that's been found archaeologically, which is copper alloy and then enamelled. So these represent who you're for. Now the Lancastrians, they have a completely different style of collar. In fact, you can see it on this book here. If we just have a look, you can see that it is like a series of S's. Okay, and this is sometimes referred to a collar of S's in period sources, E-S-S-E-S, a collar of S's, in other words, a line of S's, or sometimes known as an SS collar, which I think is a little bit of an unfortunate name for it because it makes you think of another period of history. But anyway, so I call it a collar of S's, or the Yorkist collar, which is roses and suns. And as I say, different emblems hanging from here. Now, not only does it show your allegiance, it also shows your status, because of course, how fancy the collar is. If it's made of solid gold, then clearly you're going to be a great magnate. I am actually essentially representing someone in the Tewkesbury context, a knight called Sir Roger Kynaston, who actually happens to be an ancestor of mine, and I just thought for that reason and he was in the retinue of the Duke of Gloucester, which I am too. So I'm essentially playing a real person, role-playing as a real person who was actually there, who I happen to be related to. But he absolutely, very, very large chance, he would have worn a medium to high status livery collar like this for the Yorkist faction. But as I say, this specifically is a replica of one shown, I think his name is Sir John Donne, and he's in a Hans Memling painting, and his wife as well. So there we go. I hope that's an interesting insight into the existence of livery collars, if you've maybe never heard of them before. I should also mention as well, actually, you've probably heard of the Order of the Garter. That's actually a little belt worn around the calf, just above the calf, just below the knee. That's a similar thing, similar emblem. You have to become a member of the Order of the Garter. Kings of England made people into the order. And you find other knightly orders around Europe. For example, there's the Order of the Golden Fleece. Now, the Order of the Golden Fleece is a very interesting one because actually it was international. So there were English members of it, Hungarian, Burgundian, French, all different nationalities were members of the Order of the Golden Fleece, even though it's fundamentally originally a kind of Franco-Belgian kind of institution. And so you sometimes see that in art. So next time you're looking at medieval paintings and manuscripts, if you see a nobleman, a king, a knight wearing this type of collar, you now know what it means. And also, if you look more specifically at the collar, what's the collar got on it? If it's a line of S's, then they're Lancastrian. Okay, they're associated with people like Henry V or Henry VI. If it's roses and suns, they're associated with the Yorkists, people like Richard III, Edward IV. If it's later, if it's a Tudor one, you'll see Tudor roses on it. So they combine some of the decorative features, because after the Wars of the Roses, there was a re-amalgamation of the noble houses of England. Equally, if you're looking outside England, if you're looking in France or the Holy Roman Empire, Italy, whatever, if there's a specific emblem hanging from the bottom here, then that might tell you what order that knight or nobleman is a member of. Okay, so if there's a drooping sheep, that's actually the Order of the Golden Fleece. So it's a golden sheep's fleece hanging. So you can tell an awful lot from these. And of course, in period, people equally would have told an awful lot. And it was both a boast, it was a status symbol, it was a pinning your flag in the ground and saying, this is what I stand for, this is what I believe in, or this is how I've been rewarded for my services or my achievements in battle or civil service or whatever. And as mentioned at the beginning of this video, it survived into the modern day in the form of civic regalia, for example in England, worn by mayors of towns and cities. So if you go into your town or city and you see some grand event happening once a year and the mayor is wearing a big chain of office, that is where it all started, in knightly and aristocratic livery collars worn in the Middle Ages for all the purposes I've just explained. I hope this has been interesting, another insight into the medieval military world. And don't forget, if you're in England, absolutely visit Tewkesbury Medieval Festival, okay, which is next weekend. If you just search Tewkesbury Medieval Festival, you can find all of the details, and if you're lucky, you might see me. If you do see me, by all means come and say hi and tell me that you watched this video, because it'd be really nice to know. Equally, you know, I'll be there with Lindy Beige, Drakenifil and Zach Evans as well, so if you're more interested in them than in me, that's cool also. You can go and say hi to them. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I hope I'll see you back on the channel really soon. Cheers, folks. Thanks for watching. We've got extra videos on Patreon. Please give our Facebook a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Cheers, folks.